The Great Pretender. By Kennedy Brown. EmmaParaLeeInc. Marie 68 Publishing. Where the streets tell their own truth. The Elder Chorus. On Chelsea's hoe behavior, the obituary, and Derek being put out like yesterday's trash. By the time the news reached the porch, it had already made 3 phone calls, stopped at 2 beauty shops, and sat down for a full plate at somebody's kitchen table. The Elder Chorus did not go looking for it. It came to them, the way the truth always does in a small community, loud, breathless, and slightly more detailed than anyone asked for. Auntie May had received the first call. Then Mama Greer received a slightly different version from the same source, which told them everything they needed to know about how thoroughly this story was traveling. Mother Mary had heard a fragment at the pharmacy. Sister Shirley Ann had heard all of it at once from a woman in the parking lot of the dollar store, who apparently had no concept of an indoor voice or discretion. And Ruby, who had driven back to Churraw and then turned right back around upon hearing the news, had arrived on the porch with a Bojangles box, a full tank of gas, and an expression that said she had been right about everything and took absolutely no pleasure in it. They assembled at dusk as they always did. The porch fans were going. The tea was made. And Auntie May, who had been holding everything in since 11 that morning, opened her mouth. Auntie May, that woman went to the wake. Mama Greer, don't. Auntie May, no, I need somebody to confirm what I heard, because I have been sitting on this all day and I cannot carry it alone. Chelsea Dawkins, the mistress, the side piece, the woman who has been sleeping with this dead girl's fiancé, went to the wake. Mother Mary, Lord have mercy. Auntie May, and not quietly either. Not in the back row with a black veil and some humility. Dressed up like it was Easter Sunday service at a megachurch. All coordinated and pressed and, Sister Shirley Ann, leaning forward, what did she have on? Auntie May, that is not the point, Shirley Ann. Sister Shirley Ann, it absolutely is the point. The outfit tells you everything about the state of mind. What was she wearing? Ruby, without looking up from her Bojangles church attire, head to toe, like she was the one receiving condolences. A silence so thick you could press your hand into it. Mama Greer. She went to that child's wake dressed like the widow. Ruby. She went to that child's wake dressed like she had won something. Mother Mary. Both hands on her Bible, Father God in heaven above. Auntie May. And reeking of liquor and marijuana. So she came to mourn this woman's death, smelling like a house party and dressed like the first lady of the congregation. Sister Shirley Ann, pausing mid-sip of her mason jar and looking mildly offended. There is a time and a place, Chelsea. Mama Greer. Shirley Ann, are you actually judging somebody for drinking? Sister Shirley Ann, I judge nobody for drinking. I judge the timing and the location. I have never once shown up to a wake reeking. I have standards. Mama E., who had been quiet until now, rocking slowly, watching the street, what did she say? When she was there. Everyone looked at Ruby. Ruby, she said, and I want you all to hear every word of this. She said that Shamari looked so good laying there in that casket that she should have died a long time ago. The porch did not erupt. It went cold. Auntie May stopped fanning. Mama Greer set down her glass. Mother Mary made a sound that was not a word. Sister Shirley Ann lowered her mason jar to the floor with the precision of someone choosing not to throw it. Mama Greer. Very low, very deliberate, she said that. In that funeral home. About that girl in that casket. Ruby. Those were the words. Mama Greer. About a 26-year-old woman. Laying in her wedding gown. Carrying her baby. Ruby, yes. Mama Greer. And nobody in that room removed her from the premises using whatever force was available and necessary? Mama E. Greer. Mama Greer. I am asking a genuine question. Auntie May, I will say this. If I had been standing in that room and those words had come out of that woman's mouth, they would have had to open a second casket. I'm just being honest with you. Mother Mary, Auntie May. Auntie May, Mother Mary, there are moments when the Lord himself would step aside and say, handle that. And this was one of them. Sister Shirley Ann, what kind of person says that? What kind of hollow, broken, bitter, eaten up from the inside person stands over a dead woman's body and says she should have died sooner? What happened to Chelsea Dawkins that made her this way? Mama E. Quietly, a man left her at an altar. Sister Shirley Ann, That's not an excuse. Mama E. No. It is not. But it is an explanation. Pain that never gets treated doesn't stay where it started. It moves. Spreads. And eventually it starts speaking out loud in funeral homes over the bodies of women who had nothing to do with the wound that created it. Ruby. Shamari Harris did not leave Chelsea at that altar. Shamari Harris fell in love with a man who lied to her. Those two women were both victims of the same person, and Chelsea is standing over one of their coffins talking about she should have died sooner. That is not grief talking. That is something else entirely. Mama Greer, that is a woman who helped put her there talking. Nobody argued with that. Auntie May, now, can we discuss the obituary? Because that was a whole other kind of justice served on a fine china plate with a garnish on the side. Mother Mary. And despite herself she straightened just slightly. They left him out entirely. Auntie May. Not an honorable mention. Not a footnote. Not a also survived by the man who was supposed to marry her, and couldn't keep his hands to himself. Nothing. That man does not exist anywhere in that program. Sister Shirley Ann, you know that had to have stung. Mama Greer, good. Sister Shirley Ann. Oh, I'm not saying it didn't. I'm saying it had to have stung, and I wanted to acknowledge that before I said good. Ruby. Leah pushed for it. Shamara's older sister. She held the line. Because she knew. She knew what was going on, and she wasn't about to put his name next to her sister's in something that would exist forever. Mama E. That family understood something that a lot of people don't have the courage to act on. Your name in an obituary is permanent. It is the last public document that says who mattered to this person. And that family looked at Derek Mack and decided, no. You do not get to stand in the warmth of her legacy. You do not get to have your name printed next to hers as though you were what you pretended to be. You were a lie. And we will not print the lie. Auntie May. And then Mr. Harris, the father. When Derek finally showed up late to the funeral home trying to get a private viewing, Mr. Harris had already called ahead. Already told them. This man does not get in. Mama Greer. Slowly nodding. Tim Harris told the funeral home not to let him through the door. Ruby. That is a father who loved his child and knew exactly who was responsible for the world she was living in. Sister Shirley and Derek had to stand outside. In the parking lot. With Chelsea, who he had called for a ride because apparently that was the only person who would answer the phone, and they stood there together, the two of them locked out. Of the wake of the woman they both wronged. Auntie May. The poetic justice of that image alone should be put in a frame and hung on a wall. Mother Mary. I don't take pleasure in another person's humiliation. Mama Greer. Mother Mary. Pause. But I will say that God is not mocked. And sometimes his corrections are visible to the naked eye. Auntie May. Mother Mary just said what she said and I respect it. Mama E. And the baby's name. Tell them about the baby's name. Ruby. Setting down her food because this part deserved full attention. The family named the baby. The child that Shamari was carrying. They named him Timothy Camden Mack. Timothy for her father, Camden for her brother-in-law who has been standing guard over that family like a wall. And 4 children are going to carry a small blue satin pillow with that name on it. Into the service. To be placed inside the casket with Shamari. The porch was still. Ruby. That baby has a name. That baby has pallbearers. That baby has a blue pillow with his name on it carried by children, so that everyone in that church understands, this was not a pregnancy. This was a person. This was a son. And this family is burying both of their people with every honor they deserve. Mama Greer. And her voice was thick but steady, and Derek wanted to say that child was going to carry his name. His legacy. His son. Ruby, he said that. At the pallbearer meeting. Acted put out that they had named the baby without his input. Auntie May. He lost the right to name that child the moment he. Mama E. Yes. He did. Silence. Mother Mary. Shamari is being buried in her wedding gown. The gown she never got to wear down the aisle. Cradling her baby in a receiving blanket that belonged to her baby brother Dendry, who passed as an infant. Wearing an antique pin from Granny Mac's collection. Granny Mac, who paid for a glass case over her body so the family could see her one last time, and then she could rest untouched. Oz. That is a family that loved that girl with everything they had. Every single detail of that homegoing says you were cherished. You were planned for. You were expected to live a long, full, beautiful life. And we are going to send you home with every tenderness we have left in us. Sister Shirley and, quietly, and Derek Mack isn't even in the program. Mother Mary, he is not. Sister Shirley and, that's not cruelty. That's clarity. Mama E. After a long moment rocking slowly, you know what stays with me? Chelsea said Shamara should have died long ago. And I keep thinking about what that sentence really means coming from Chelsea's mouth. Because Chelsea has been dying a slow death for 3 years. Since Trent left her on those church steps with a baby in her body and a dress she didn't pick out alone. She has been dying every single day since then. Quietly. Behind a smile in a classroom and a beauty pageant wave. And instead of dealing with that death, instead of sitting with it, grieving it, healing from it, she found Derek Mack. And she decided to drag somebody else into the dying with her. Nobody spoke. Mama E. Shamari Harris was not Chelsea's enemy. Shamari Harris was just in the way of something Chelsea had convinced herself she was owed. And that is the saddest, most dangerous place a wounded person can get to. When they start believing their pain gives them permission. Ruby. Softly, it doesn't. Mama E. No, baby. Never does. The porch settled into the particular quiet that follows when every truth has been said and nothing is left but the sitting with it. Mama Greer picked her glass back up. Auntie May resumed fanning slower now. Mother Mary opened her Bible but didn't read, just held it like ballast. Sister Shirley and reclaimed her mason jar without ceremony. Ruby gathered the Bojangles box and folded it neatly, as if order in small things was the only order available. And somewhere across town, in a funeral home with a glass case over a young woman in a wedding gown, Shamari Marie Harris rested with her son in her arms and her grandmother's pin at her collar and her name printed cleanly across a program that did not include the man who had brought her here. She was cherished. She was buried whole. And the great pretender was standing in a parking lot with a drunk woman in Easter clothes, locked out of both the life he had ruined and the death he had caused. The porch had nothing more to say about that. Except the streets don't lie. They never do. EmmaParaLeeInc. Marie 68 Publishing. SamKookFan68@gmail.com. KennedyLovesSam@yahoo.com. Where the streets tell their own truth.